Take your seats. Thank you. Our guest former Minister of International Trade and Industry. Yakbarusa Chief Results Primer, Chairman of the National Visual Arts Development Board, members of the National Visual Arts Development Board, Justice So Nandala Judge of the High Court of Malaysia, Yamabagya Katri Nusfi Diraka, Ramchin Talib, former Minister of South Africa, Yamabagya Katri Nako Abdulghani bin Osman, former Minister of South Africa, Yamabagya Malaysia, Your Excellencies, Yamabagya Dr. Ramli Ibrahim, Chairman of the Sutra Foundation, of Sivam Selvaratnam, Yamabagya Tan Sri Dr. Maslan Othman, Member of the Sutra Foundation, and Dr. Peace and extended family, eight artists, distinguished guests, ladies and Salam Sujata, Ni Hao, good afternoon, and welcome to the National Visual Art Gallery for the launch of Sivam Selvaratnam, A Life in Art. My name is Dr. George Vadakat, and it is my very pleasant honor to be your host this afternoon. As we celebrate a very special talented, prolific Asian artist with the launch of this beautiful book on her and her art. The story from the art war once said, art awakens a sense of real by establishing an intimate relationship between our inner being and the universe at large, bringing us consciousness of deep joy. Sivam Selvaratnam, as a leading modern artist, has indeed sparked joy for many and continues to do so through her rich legacy. When talking about modern abstract artists, I'm reminded of the story of when Salvador Dali, who was once robbed while on a visit to New York. When he made the police report, he told the police, I had a good look at the robber and I will draw you a sketch. So he drew a sketch and gave it to the police. And thereafter, the officers of the NYPD scoured the 5 boroughs of New York, looking for a man with the head of a horse, a poached egg on his forehead, and a sword in his mouth. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to begin proceedings, we have someone who knew Sivam Selvaratnam well. Before she even met her husband, Dr. Selvaratnam, he was a fellow member of the fabled Wednesday Art Group, one of the few still with us today, and he saw her as something of a mentor. I'm delighted to invite onto the stage the Principal Director of Hajidar and Associates, Dato Architect Haji Hajidar Haji Abdul Majid.
Bismillah. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Rafidah Aziz, a former senior minister in the government of Malaysia, Dr. Selvaratnam and family, friends and guests. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon to all. As mentioned by the MC, before I proceed with my introduction speech, please allow me to warmly welcome our honorable guest of honor, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Rafidah Aziz, to this gracious and significant event. I have known Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz from my school days at Victoria Institution in the 1960s, when she was in the 6th form, together with my late sister, Siti Majha, and other outstanding VI personalities, namely the late Tan Sri Aziz Ismail, the late Tan Sri Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan, and also my fellow associate architect, Ko Beng Tek. I'm also privileged to today welcome, among other eminent persons, such as he was supposed to be here, Tengku Yang Amat Mulia Tengku Razali Hamzah, who should have been here with us today, and then Tan Sri Ramli Ngah, who is already here, right in front of us, Tan Sri Ghani Osman, another eminent personality, among the people that our paths have crossed for some good reasons in the past until today. So with Allah's blessing and destiny, we are all gathered here with a common bond for a very noble purpose of recognizing the contribution of an outstanding Malaysian artist come educationist in the person of the late Sivam Selvaratnam, who departed exactly a decade ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, respectful art lovers and friends of Sivam, it is indeed an honor and privilege to be involved in this significant publication of Sivam Selvaratnam, A Life in Art. recording the evolution of fine arts within our beloved country, Malaysia. It also recognizes her contributions with the Director of Art Education then, Peter Harris, on the subject of art within the Malaysia's school curriculum. And for historic context, again, please allow me to briefly reminisce the recent past. Firstly, I have known Sivam Penampalam since the Wednesday Art Group, or WAG days, when I was only 15 years old. And now, speaking to you all about 64 years later, at the age of 79. And since 1964, we lost contact with each other in pursuit of our respective careers, but within the same country. We were both in England. She was in Manchester, and I was in Plymouth, Portsmouth, and Brighton. Today, I am amazed and greatly impressed to discover and share her humble, diverse, and most illustrious journey in life, as evidenced by her artistic creations in all her works, and reflecting the timelessness or timeless mood and the values of her living moments. At the Wednesday Art Group, we were a group of artists from diverse local ethnic cultural backgrounds, together with some expatriate professionals drawn by the common interest in art. We would meet every Wednesday evening between 5 and 8 p.m. in the converted barracks at the Dewan Tuanku Abdul Rahman at Jalan Ampang to explore and share our drawing skills, exchange comments, critique, and reflect on our respective artistic styles, and to draw with some live models using various media. Among the eminent Malaysian artists then were Peter Harris, Syed Ahmad Jamal, Patrick Ng Ka On, Chong Lai Tong, Zulkifli Buyung, Rene Kral, and others who have since moved on or passed away. Being among the younger members, I am one of the survivors today, and this would include Ismail Mustam, famous for the mural at the Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka, Lung Ten Shi, who is unable to be with us today, and my dear other sister, Siti Majidah, who is here today. We participated at various art exhibitions, and in 1960, we even sold our paintings and sketches to help start the permanent art collection for the National Art Gallery, located within the Dewan Tuanku Abdul Rahman, which is now we know the National Art Gallery as Balai Seni Negara, located in Jalan Temeloh, where we are today. It is therefore appropriate that this book on Sivam Selvaratnam, being one of our pioneering artists, should be launched at the Balai Seni Negara. Secondly, the book shall provide a greater insight on the depth of skill within her selfless freedom in pursuit of fine art expressions as embodied within all her works. This book indeed is worthy for our appreciative, visual, intellectual, and emotional nourishment, especially among art lovers. Thirdly, I had once entitled a lecture at the Kakosa Srinagara, "If Walls Could Speak," on the subject of heritage, where, if indeed the walls could speak, the walls shall reveal the various events that they have witnessed within those two buildings. Today, I shall propose another title, "If Paintings Could Speak." Then, I believe that all matured and thinking individuals may be able to enjoy the meaningful designs, the palette of colors, and even read the hidden stories and messages as immortalized within Sivam's works. Lastly, I take the opportunity to thank the confidence of Dr. Selvaratnam and family for their trust in sharing this celebrated book launch on the works of our dear Sivam Selvaratnam. May her soul rest in peace, while we and the world enjoy the sweet and precious fruits of her highly creative and illustrious artworks and meaningful messages in life. As a dear friend to me, a loving wife, mother, grandmother, and ultimately being the truly Malaysian artist that she was. Sekian, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum.
Thank you so much, Dato Architect Haji Hajidar, for that eloquent tribute and those evocative memories of the world of fine arts in a newly born nation at just after Merdeka. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is an internationally renowned dancer and choreographer, indeed a great performing artist, but he is himself a fine artist, and more importantly, for the world of fine arts, he is always finding avenues for artists to exhibit and sell their works. The walls of his studio and even his home are given to artists to display their works. His Sutra Foundation is the publisher of this book, and all proceeds from the sale of the books go to the Sutra Foundation, thanks to the generosity of the Selvaratnam family. Please put your hands together to welcome what many would call a living work of art himself, Chairman of the Sutra Foundation, Yang Berbahagia, Dato' Ramli Ibrahim.
Our guest of honor, Tan Sri Rafida Aziz, His Excellency Shri B.N. Reddy, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Ramlinga Talib, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Ghani Osman, Yang Berusaha Tuan Sheikh Rizal Sulaiman, Chairman of the National Visual Arts Development Board, Dr. V. Selvaratnam, and the extended family of the late Sivam Selvaratnam, Board of Trustees of Sutra Foundation, His Excellencies Tan Sri, Dato, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome to the National Visual Art Gallery for the launch of the book Sivam Selvaratnam, A Life in Art. At the outset, Sutra Foundation would like to thank the Balai, both Encik Amaruddin as Ketua Pengarah and Tuan Sheikh Rizal as Chairman, for lending their hand in facilitating the Balai as co-publisher of the book. I would like to congratulate Dr. Selvaratnam, husband of the late Sivam Selvaratnam, for his continuing effort to keep the memory and legacy of Sivam alive on this 10th year of her demise, together with the family, through the publication of this beautiful book. I also want to put on record the great effort, dedication, and creative energy of artist Shivaraja Natarajan, trustee of Sutra Foundation, who had worked hard to give the publication the aesthetic finesse that the legacy of Sivam Selvaratnam deserves. I take the opportunity to thank all the writers who had contributed to complete the visage of Sivam for us to understand the temperament and accomplishment of this loving mother and dedicated artist, the two essential facets of Sivam's inherent personality. Dr. Selvaratnam himself, together with Yamini and Yashoda, and the other art experts and writers, especially Dr. Hajida, Cyril Pereira, and Puan Zanita, had given their astute and comprehensive analysis, which further bring to light the different artistic aspects of Sivam's contribution to Malaysian contemporary modern painting. Even at cursory glance, you will find that Sivam Selvaratnam's sketches and paintings exude a distinctive and unmistakable modern aura. You would be surprised to learn that her avant-garde looking works were executed in the 60s, and you would be even more impressed by the range of explorations which her creations encompassed. Sivam Selvaratnam was not only very much with her time, but in fact, she was actually ahead of her time, keeping with a maxim which describes true artists as truly modern and original in spirit. Her works are relevant to the present, not ever looking dated or kitsch. Where her life's journey was concerned, Sivam Selvaratnam was engaged in the dual pursuits of her personal, artistic, and spiritual evolution. This simultaneous exploration had been undertaken quietly and without fuss. The acceptance of her work by the public was not her main concern. Her works are footmarks that provide us with glimpses of a heightened aesthetic experience with where art becomes an intense metaphor of reality. Sivam went ahead on her own track to explore and to capture the essence of things around her. She concentrated on capturing the impermanence of foliage, the scent of flowers, the soul of music, the texture of textiles, and the moods of gestures and of the human figure. This was how she eventually arrived at the abstractions of the essential shapes and colors. This was the preoccupation which defined her modernity and characterized the timelessness of her work. Sivam Selvaratnam followed this fascination in her art to the limit she would take her. Her distillation and abstraction of shapes, her effective choice of colors, and the confidence and natural manner in which she combined strokes, nuances, lines, triangles, squares, and circles, place her among the most compelling of Malaysian modern painters, regardless of gender. As a Malaysian woman painter, Sivam Selvaratnam is not only among the best, but the most undeniable and irresistible we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramli, for that insightful and poetic description of the amazing and prolific work of Sivam Selvaratnam. Tan Sri Rafida, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This magnificent book is testament to the enduring love and esteem that Sivam Selvaratnam's family have for her. Yamini is the second child of Sivam and Selva and an oncologist based in Manchester. To say a few words on behalf of her father, her siblings Anand and Yashoda, and their respective families, I'm delighted to invite onto the stage Dr. Yamini Selvaratnam.
Yang Bahagia Tan Sri Rafida, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Tuan Tuan, Huan Huan, our friends and family. My mother was an extraordinary person who broke many conventions. She grew up in a small town of Kajang, a female of Sri Lankan heritage who had the odds stacked against her, being female and of ethnic minority status. Despite these odds, she succeeded in making a lasting impact on the art scene in Malaysia, not only as an art educator who was instrumental in shaping the Malaysian art curriculum, but also as a successful painter in her own right. It was a combination of talent, drive, perseverance, her passion for the arts, and single-mindedness that drove her to this achievement. She was a woman who was progressive, and her approach to art was well ahead of her time. These attributes, combined with her fun-loving and gentle manner, also made her a favorite friend, auntie, relative, not to mention a much-loved wife, mother, and grandmother. My mother's passing 10 years ago left us as a family bereft. To commemorate her, my father, who has been pivotal in her artistic journey, has masterminded this incredible book to recognize, celebrate, and document her talent and achievements throughout her life. The majority of the credit for the sustained commitment which culminated in the production of this wonderful book goes to him. He was supported by my lovely sister-in-law Lakshmi, who has been at his beck and call, tirelessly editing and tweaking, The book was curated by Sivan Nadarajan, without whose dedication, patience, and hard work, this book would certainly not have materialized. We as a family would also like to extend our gratitude to our dear friend Dato' Ramli Ibrahim, Yogi Chalapan, Dato' Hajida, who was in the, as you know, was in the Wednesday art group with my mother, the National Art Gallery, including its chairman, Sheikh Rizal Sulaiman, and Director General Amaruddin, and their staff, who have been a joy to work with. Our book design team, William and his colleagues, CB printers who go back a long way with my mother, Mahen, our photographer, Zanita, Cyril Pereira, Dr. Krishna Gopal Rampal, Mr. Ui Kok Chen, Ambassador Datuk Yusuf, and Datuk Dr. Aizai, without whose care my mother would not have lived a further 11 precious years. These thank yous are just to name a few. Our gracious thanks also goes to Auntie Tan Sri Rafida Aziz for kindly consenting to officiate at this event. As you can see, there has been a large team involved in producing this book, not to mention organizing today's event. I am sure that Mum would have approved, and even if I say so myself, the book is absolutely marvelous. I wish my mother were here with us today. I know that she would have felt very honored and proud of the work put in by this incredible team in the making of this book. I would also like to thank each and every one of you for sharing this momentous occasion with our family in telling the story of Sivam Selvaratnam, A Life in Art. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamini, for that heartfelt tribute to your remarkable mother and that vote of thanks. It truly takes a village to publish a book. Dr. Selvaratnam, the other half of Sivam and her greatest fan, wants to acknowledge the presence today of his first economic students from the 6th form of Malay College, Kuala Kangsar, Tan Sri Ramli Nga, Ambassador Dato' Yop Atlan, and Dato' Umar Abu, the first mayor of Ipoh. A special welcome to all of you. Sivam and Selva come from very distinguished Malaysian Jaffna Tamil families, and they are here in full force with the pillars of the community dotted all around this beautiful foyer. Now, rather unusually for this close-knit and formidable community, Dr. Selvaratnam has chosen a Malaysian Malayali to talk about Sivam's family background. I hope he doesn't get excommunicated by the Jaffna Tamils for this. This next speaker is no stranger to many of us, not least myself. Please welcome onto the stage retired judge of the Court of Appeal of Malaysia, Tan Sri V.C. George.
Is this mic? I'm a little taller than the other two speakers. That's right. In a discussion just 3 or 4 days ago with our host, Dr. V. Selvaratnam, I had agreed with him that it would be an omission in the launch of a life in art if a few minutes were not devoted in touching on the role in the life of Sivam, of a brother, the late Dato' Dr. P.T. Arasu, by one of Arastu's friends. Selvaratnam went on to lament that almost all, if not all, of Arastu's close friends, including the likes of the developer Tan Chinnam, Tan Sri Dr. Koko Majid, Dato Harun Idris, and Tan Sri C. Shararaja, had passed on as a result of old age. And then Selva turned on me and cried, "Except you, you are a contemporary and close friend of Arastu's." And so I was chosen. Greatness was thrust on me by Dr. Selvaratnam, albeit only because I am a survivor. Tan Sri Rafida Aziz, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Sivam is the youngest son of the Ponnamplams of Kajang. Mr. Ponnamplam and his sons P.T. Sambandar and P.T. Arasu were among the outstanding leaders of the Jaffna Tamil community in Malaysia. The Jaffna Tamils of Malaysia are, like the Malayalis in Malaysia, I am a Malaysian Malayali, a significant minority of the insignificant minority that the Malaysian Indian community, that includes the Sri Lankans, is. I repeat that. The Jaffna Tamils of Malaysia are, like the Malayalis in Malaysia, a significant minority of the insignificant minority that the Malaysian Indian community, that includes the Sri Lankans, is. When Sivam was 14, her parents decided that she should move out of Kajang to continue with her schooling at the Bukit Nanas convent in KL. And it was also decided that she should move to KL and stay with her brother, Dato Dr. P.T. Arasu, and his wife, Arun Thabanayaki. It's a complicated, she's seated over there, it's a complicated, long Jaffna Tamil name. So I'll just call her what all of us call her, Tavam. She was with them until she married young V. Selvaratnam, seated over there, in 1962. It was Dr. Arasu that arranged for the marriage to be conducted in the hall of the Chettiar's temple in Ipoh Road. By then, ladies and gentlemen, Arasu was on his way to becoming one of the most successful private medical practitioners in Kuala Lumpur. He had his clinic in a shop house, in the row of shop houses on Ipoh Road. I have seen the daily lines of patients queuing up on the 5-foot way of the shop houses to be attended to by Dr. Arasu, who was blessed, as they say in Tamil, with Kai Rasi, the magic touch. Dr. Arasu was also successful in politics and was a Selangor State Assemblyman. He also served as on a number of Selangor State government committees. He had a full social life. Mahjong, golf, and gourmet meals were his passions. He was a generous host and a witty and humorous raconteur. In the context of Sivam, although Arasu was, like me, as to art a Philistine, he and Tavam supported Sivam's interest and passion for art. In the context of an Indian or Ceylonese Tamil girl in Malaysia of those days wanting to be an artist, support of the type given to her by the Arasus and later by Selvaratnam, then and later when she and Selva went to the United Kingdom to complete their tertiary education, has to be thankfully noted at this launch, The Arasus and Selvaratnam helped make Sivam to be what she was. Ladies and gentlemen, please join Dr. Selvaratnam and me in this salute to the late Dato Dr. P.T. Arasu and to Tavam. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri V.C. George.
for those wonderful memories from the days gone by. Ladies and gentlemen, we have something very special now. It is a video presentation featuring Sivam Selvaratnam and her art. It's from a documentary created by the National Visual Arts Development Gallery in 2012 for the Tiga Sezaman, a contemporary art exhibition. Do turn your attention to the screen and enjoy. Thank you.
I went to a convent school, and my teachers were mainly Irish nuns who came to teach. But of course, the method they used to teach us was just nature. That is, they get us to bring a flower and copy it. They place some objects and we copy still life, and imaginative compositions, preparing us for the O-level exams, Form 5 exams those days. And I remember once I drew and shaded a morning glory, and the nun saw it, and she said, it's a real glory, because she really loved the way I drew it and shaded it. But when I finished my Form 5, and when I told my parents I would like to go to England to pursue my studies, there were a lot of objections. Now, going to England when you are so young is not the best thing. You should go to the university and do an arts degree and have a profession that will take you far. That was the concept that most parents had at that time. However, I refused to get to the university, so I joined the teaching career. And I was chosen to go to Kotabaru Teachers College. And there, again, I had a Scottish man teaching me art in the college, because they recruited British lecturers to come to teach in these colleges. And he taught me art, and he developed the pattern making and so on, the crafts of local works. He was trying to encourage us to get inspiration for that kind of artwork, and which I enjoyed very much. After finishing Teachers College, I came back. I was posted to Bath Road Boys School, primary school. And it was great because it was during that time I began to search for a place where I can go and further develop my art. And that's when I found this group, a Wednesday art group, which was housed in the old education department near Jalan Sulaiman, which is no more in existence. And there was an Englishman again who was conducting the classes. He was Peter Harris. So I went to approach him, and he welcomed me warmly and said, "You are welcome to come and join our classes." That's the beginning of my art career, I would say. And I think that took me a long way. I was able to learn a lot from each other, from those Patrick King, John Lytham, Kai Payne. Then Patrick King, who was teaching in Victoria Institution, brought Hajida and Ismail Mustam into the classes. They were students, but he found talents. So they brought them for these evening classes, and we had a wonderful time. We not only drew on Wednesdays from 6 to 8, but Peter Harris organized excursions, group excursions, to go to Polakatam, Malacca, Monsoon, where we would also see and enjoy the scenic beauty of this, as well as sketch. And what was very important for Peter Harris was always carry a sketchbook with you. And you must have your pencils and your sketchbook to sketch whatever you see and keep a record of things that you have seen. So that is actually, he was encouraging observation, all the time observing things. Even when you look at the ground, feel your footsteps on the ground, all sorts of things. The awareness which he created takes you a long way. Mentioned earlier, being so much influenced by Western books and so on. Though I made studies of batik as well as studies of Indian paintings of today, but I still had a fondness for art in the West, some other. And I think in the earlier years of my art career, I was very much influenced by Jackson Pollock. Because I think the action with which he painted attracted me, being young at heart. And I think I tried to do a lot of splash of colors and so on. So basically, I was drawing figures and elevating my standards in the art, fineness of lines and so on. These line values, which I learned, I adapted it to the abstract, showing that there is a relationship between what you learn and what you eventually do, applying your knowledge to more abstract work. So abstract work, many people think you are just splashing colors. It's not. Anybody can splash colors. But how and why you did that is the important thing. Art is, of course, one side, Ahmad. I always had a passion. I had a real liking for him. He was like a mentor for me in here. I used to always go to him for advice. He used to come and help me with my teaching during my courses. He was a great gentleman. He never used to think who you are. Just give her what she needs. And he wrote a nice foreword for my first solo exhibition as well. Art should be taught in a school where they have music, drama, science, geography, all into one, and related to through art. Because it's the creative part of art that is important to all subjects in a curriculum, school curriculum. As an artist, you must have freedom to express the way you want to. But my passion is to listen to music, to the ragas, and paint to music. So I chose that as a very important aspect of my art. And I worked on these themes. At the same time, I'm also interested in figuratives. I'm also interested in nature studies and so on. So my belief is that as an artist, you have to explore and discover as much as you can. Importantly, they have to work with great integrity. They should value their works, and I think they should not just produce art for the sake of selling alone. They must have a commitment to what they are producing so that historically they will go a long way.
Yes, documentary, such amazing images, and how magical to have Sivam Selvaratnam talk to us about her work so animatedly. Let's give the National Visual Arts Development Board a tepukan gemuruh for that, making that amazing documentary and sharing it with us today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for. I too, Dato' Hajida, have a VI story regarding Tan Sri Rafida, that as a young schoolboy being mesmerized by her as she gave the speech at one of our speech days, a fiery speech, and I was not surprised when she became known as the Iron Lady of Malaysia in later years. She is a former colleague of Dr. Selvaratnam at the Faculty of Economics, University of Malaya, and a close friend of Sivam herself. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome onto the stage our guest of honor, Tan Sri Rafida Aziz.
Thank you. No, take it out. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Selvaratnam and family, our distinguished guests, whole list headed by our judge, and dear friends. First of all, I'd like to thank Selva and your family, and of course Sutra Foundation, Deba Ramli, for the invitation to launch this special collection of the artworks of our dear friend Selva. And she was indeed a very talented artist and a dear friend of many of us. I find that she was truly dedicated to her mission to create more noteworthy art pieces, and each one reflecting her thoughts, her feelings, aspirations, and her perceptions of life. I totally agree with all the forewords written by my good friend like Hajida here, as encapsulated in the various forewords. And although I personally knew Sivam as Selva's spouse, as we women tend to be acknowledged by some of society, I also knew her as the artist, the talented artist in her own right. So again, as the doctor said, she was really one of those who actually broke those ceiling myths that we have. So I hope society doesn't say she's so-and-so's wife. Like she says, he's so-and-so's husband, right? Prove yourself. Of course, you're proud to be the spouse of everybody. But when you have made something on your own right, as a man or as a woman, then regardless of gender, you should be recognized for what you have given forth. Yeah, and I believe very sincerely that our Sivam was one of the women who stood out in her own right. Selva, you know that, right? Okay. And judging by the range of artworks that she completed, depicting various subjects, Sivam was always able to interpret, to conceptualize, represent, and project what was in her mind and how she felt, and giving depth to those interpretations of the messages she wanted to convey. What she meticulously painted were not exactly the still life art, like some amateur artist wannabes like me still tend to do. You know, still art, you look at it and you just paint it. And my art was so stilted, if you can call it art at all, lacking that life, that my daughter, who's not present with me here, just simply told me in the car one day, Mommy, if you just wanted to replicate each thing that you want to paint, then I should just take a photograph of it and frame it and save all your time. Because, you know, I kept wanting to do it as it is. A red rose and out it comes, and I'm so upset if the rose is not red enough and so on. And that is not painting really. You know, of course it made me frustrated because exactly what was happening. I wasn't telling myself to paint what I feel was the rose was looking like. It was what a rose was supposed to be. And then I realized the possibilities of putting onto canvas, like what our late Sivam did, my perception of the subject, my impression and feelings, and how I conceptualize, as they all are very essentially subjective and personal. And I'm glad that she said it first, meaning that what I'm saying now is in fact really what the great artist is talking about. Very subjective and personal. So if you're not doing abstract, if somebody going to laugh at it, let them laugh. Because they don't feel what you felt when you painted it. And I think if you look at the Picassos of today, I don't know, maybe my great-grandchildren might laugh and say, what on earth are these? Yeah, but our era, we stopped already looking at things like that. But the era before that, they were really lavishing praise on Picasso, for example. I couldn't understand where the eye was, where the nose was, when I first confronted with pictures like the abstracts. But today, of course, I know better, and especially when we have examples like our late Sivam doing it. Today, we are celebrating the lifelong works of our dear friend Sivam and her legacy for generations to come. To me, such talent is a God-given, a blessing to treasure. And dear Sivam had her own unique styles and representations of what her inner self saw. That's the most important, your inner self. And they can enable us to understand the fine-tunings of her personal perceptions as she recorded them in her art. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, clumsy. In fact, we have in our mindset today, in our midst today, friends who are in the main members or participants of the various spheres of culture and arts, who, like the artist Sivam herself, also express themselves through their cultural pursuits. For example, Datuk Ramli, I signaled to him after his speech, please do some art and dance moves. No, we didn't want to do it. Maybe he was too dressed. I always see him, I don't know, dhoti, you call it? Dancers dhoti. So he's fully dressed in batik. So he didn't want to do it. I said, do a few moves now. So maybe we have another dance session dengan dia. And so, for example, in dance, not many can emulate such dance moves and expressions as an artist like Ramli. So, in other words, we are happy amongst our midst that we have our Selvam living as a legacy and our friends who are also pursuing and continuing to strengthen the arts and culture aspects of our society. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia being such a vibrant society of multifaceted diversity in terms of culture and ways of life, we must ensure the preservation of that Malaysian cultural heritage. And to do that, we must first of all have respect for the diversities in our culture, and we have to accept those diversities and preserve them for posterity. Many people tell us, please accept our diversity. No, you cannot accept it because it can be with a grudge, right? You accept, but who cares? But if you respect and expect them and accept them, then it's part of you, part of being Malaysians. And to me, culture, right, religion should never be politicized, not to be prejudged carelessly by those who do not understand the aspects of any culture which is alien to them. I'm telling you that a day will come when these morons in our society will see Ramli dancing in his usual attire, which is really topless, and then come out and condemn him for being un-Islamic. Trust me, there will be. Ramli, right? I'm serious. They make their own prejudgment. This is un-Islamic. He is representing a dance style. A dance that's been there for ages. Who are these morons to come and make such judgments? So we in Malaysia don't allow any of these toxic, judgmental people spoil our diverse cultural heritage. And I am pleading with you I come from a generation, I'll be 81 this year, a generation of Malaysians who actually understood Malaysian culture. To us, it's natural to see Indian dance, Tamil dance, or whatever that is different from the Malay dance. And we also do English dances, remember? All kinds of English dances in a convent. So we were not only Malaysian, at that time no Malaysia, but I mean we're such Malayan that time, but we were also global. We were doing folk dancing, pretending to be Scottish. And nobody said it was haram. Our parents encouraged them. If we needed to wear a skirt that reflected a Scottish dancer, my mother will happily go and buy material to make the skirt at home. But today, our schools forbid singing, forbid everything. So where is our culture going? We have our distinguished, I would call you chief of the Balai Seni. Please consider trying to forge these elements of cultural appreciation in its all diversity in Malaysia in the young. I don't know. This has to be done. It has to be done now before we lose our very essence of being Malaysians. Yeah, it's easy not to be a Malaysian than to be a Malaysian today. And we cannot allow people to be in the mindset of I don't know where, such narrow, blinkered, cocoon mindsets that doesn't see Malaysia has a space for everyone, regardless of what culture and heritage they come from. We're all Malaysian. We're all together in this mixing pot. And the young in Malaysia must be nurtured to be aware of diversities which make up Malaysia and to be taught and respect those diversities. And teachers have a role in this. I don't know how you can call teachers to the Balai Seni and tell them, you stop telling your students, this haram and not haram. They won't even appreciate the chongsam, the sari, and so on. Right? They all think that the Malaysian baju for women are jubah, which even the women in Arabia no longer wear. They wear the outer one, the cloak, but inside it's a mini skirt. Inside tight pants, right? Yeah. If you've been there, you mingle enough, you know. You go to their homes, they're just like you and I, even more. They wear open neck, who cares? But so, let us not regress in our cultural heritage appreciation. This is my, as aging wannabe artist. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is our duty to inculcate the young Malaysians of today to accept the diversities as we have it now and not to destroy it. Ladies and gentlemen, time is certainly no friend of anything cultural. Whether it is in terms of buildings, time destroys it if nobody takes care of it. I would like to mention, just now I was talking to our boss of our Balai Seni, why don't you bid to take over the Sultan Abdul Samad building complex, which is being left to rot there. It is such a treasured building. It doesn't have to remind us about colonialists, no. It is to remind us how we progress from those days to today, where we are our own sovereign nation. But don't destroy those buildings. Don't let them go to rot. If we can give those buildings to the Balai Seni Negara as an extension of this building, can you imagine the wonderful things they can do with that building? My God. Imagine having exhibitions there, crafts, skills of the East Coast ladies, Sabah, Sarawak, so skilled in some of these things. Really, if you don't treasure them and keep them, they'll be gone forever. So, should you want to do that, we are all here, I think, to support you. Yes. No, truly, isn't it? The buildings are there. Instead of having, I was noticing while we are talking, you have visitors around here. That's not very convenient. Now, if you have a proper place like that, you can imagine where certain things that you want to present can be in that really august building, I call it. Cannot be replicated, you know. I don't know how many hundreds of millions it will cost to build something like that anywhere in the middle of the city. So my best wishes to you should you decide to do it and apply to the government. But of course, we hope nobody knows about this now and go and plead some cronyism, you know. I want to do it. I want to do it. Right? Seeing some cash coming by. No, we don't want that. We want people in the art world to actually have that building. And that's not only one building. In every state, there's so many buildings like that. That can be converted into cultural centers in the real sense of the word. Dance. And now you're going to do immersion. So that will keep alive the kind of memories we are preserving of our dear friend Sivam. She was in the artistic field, including making jewelry and so on. The end part of the book, I saw that, you know, she created jewelry and such. In other words, you have these multifaceted talents amongst our own Malaysians. So we need some buildings like that, Sota Abdul Samad, where you can actually make dreams come true in reality and for generations to appreciate. Just now I talked about time does not changes a lot of things, and time kills some things. The reason being that in culture, there will always be much adulteration and changes and even misrepresentations of certain cultural aspects. And so the new generation will have not much idea of what the real culture was all about. Especially when somebody said it's haram, that haram, so okay lah, we just go into some jubah and do dancing. That's not it. You know, the days of the Zapin, they were dressed properly with something and stanja and all that. The ladies were in kebaya, long kebayas. And of course, they were not there to show their figures. They were there doing traditional dancing. Same with Indian-based dancing or Chinese-based dancing. They all have their own costumes. No? Unless we preserve that, Malaysian culture in the year 3000 will be, I don't know what, rojak? I don't know, mixture rojak, mutabak, and whatever rubbish that comes out during those times. Now, fortunately, ladies and gentlemen, although time kills and changes so many of the cultural aspects, one cannot change anything that has been painted by artists such as those long gone from any era. Their artworks do endure, and we cannot make changes now to so-called improve upon them. Cannot. No way. And today, our dear Sivam's artworks are testimony to that. She has left something that no one should correct because that's her personal interpretation of something worthwhile putting on to canvas or whatever medium she was using at that time. And it must be indeed a source of pride for Selva and his family to have a multifaceted artist as their matriarch and who created her own space in the art world. Not easy actually, especially in the art world. Too many men around. So far, men saja counted kan, macam-macam tadi. Now we have Sivam Selvaratnam. I don't think there are any women coming up to those level of men whose paintings now fetch, like you said, 3 million. Yeah, the Jamal and the Hussein and all that. No women along those, but now we have one coming up and being recognized. And I'm happy to be together with you in this function and to be asked to launch this biography, very comprehensive biography of Sivam Selvaratnam, A Life in Art. And so generations to come can now have a reference base, I call it, to study and appreciate works of art and inspire young and budding as well as aging artists in the making like me. And you get inspired when women like me can also do all those things, which normally is the domain of men. For me, it's a special sense of pride. So today, I'm indeed honored to be able to launch the biography of Sivam Selvaratnam, A Life in Art. And may Sivam always rest in peace and her legacy be appreciated for generations to come. Thank you again for having me here.
Tan Sri Rafida, please remain on stage. and take your place here for the launch. I think let's give her a big hand. What an amazing speech, that delightful personal tribute to Sivam and our art, that passionate call to preserve and nurture the diversity of our arts, regardless of race and religion, and also the importance of our magnificent built heritage, much of which is neglected. Thank you, Tan Sri Rafida. That is music to my ears as a performing artist myself. Could I now invite to join Tan Sri on stage, Yang Barusa and Sheikh Rizal Sulaiman, Chairman of the National Visual Arts Development Board. Tan Sri, we'd like you by the, what do we call this, the plaque, yeah? You're going to sign this plaque for the launch gimmick. Also invite Shri B.N. Reddy, High Commissioner of India to Malaysia, Tan Sri V.C. George, Dr. Ramli Ibrahim, Chairman of Sutra Foundation, Dr. Architect Hajida Abdul Malik, and Dr. V. Selvaratnam. You're all requested to come up and witness ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can see the signature of Country Rafida on the screen. Stage country to name of stage. Like a photo. Right. Actually, the eldest grandfather of Sivam has just been launched. Something of Egypt. All no, yeah, give the book to it has been said that success is relative. The more success, the more relatives. Selvaratnam are indeed successful and have a lot of relatives, but I have a whole Selvaratnam family. Son Anand, wife Lakshmi, daughters Yamini, husband Martin, Yashoda, husband Siva, and all 8 grandchildren to come up on stage together with curator Sivaraja Nadarajan. Could I invite the Selvaratnam family to come up on stage for a photo op with Tan Sri Rafida and our dignitaries. Is everything there? There's one more to come. The eldest. Not wearing bath. A minute silence, please, starting now. So hard in creating this stunning book and making this launch so meaningful and successful. We especially thank our guest of honor, Chansi Rafida, and all our distinguished guests, and each and every one of you for joining us to celebrate Sivam and
wonderful art. Truly a revelation artist. Of a true visual arts gallery, just behind the screen now, for the professionals. It's